Welcome to episode 2 of the Ministry to Youth Stories podcast, where youth leaders like you share their crazy and insane stories. This episode, we're going to be talking about game fails, where a youth group game went wrong. We all have them. It happens all the time in youth ministry. It's just a part of the gig. Today's episode, you're going to love these two stories, one of them being my own where a student ended up in the hospital. And then the other is from another youth ministry leader, and you're going to really love her story. So let's dive in. Just a reminder that this episode is brought to you by Ministry to Youth. We save youth ministry leaders time and money so you can more effectively point students to Jesus. The thing that separates our curriculum and resources from everyone else is the fact that we have bundles all the time. Different kinds, different seasonal bundles, you name it, and we also have 1-year curriculums. A new thing that we have is children's ministry curriculum for 1st through 5th grades. Check us out online at ministry2youth.com. Now, let's go into today's episode. All right, here we go. Game fail. For the first story, it's going to be my story. So I want you to picture this. It's a Sunday morning service. There's probably about 60 students in the room. We're playing this wild and crazy game. It's awesome. Everybody's having a really fun time. And as a component of this game, because I forgot exactly the details of the game other than this part, is that I hid something in the room that students were looking for. And unfortunately, I made a judgment call that was wrong, and I deeply regret this. I put the object that everyone was searching for somewhere high in the room. In fact, whoever would find it would have to climb on the windowsill, probably about 3 or 4 feet in the air, and then stretch up really high to get this thing that was in a paper bag that everyone was searching for. So, of course, a student, after about a minute or 2 minutes, sees it up high, gets on the windowsill, and then tries to reach it only to fall backwards and hit the ground right on her head. Actually, she hit her hip. Her head wasn't hit. I'm sure it was, but her hip is what took the brunt of the fall. And she just laid there and she couldn't move. Everyone in the room was shocked and they're like, "What's going on?" So they crowded around her, leaders and students, and she couldn't move. She was in a lot of pain. So we're on the second story, our youth room, and on the bottom story is where all the adults are, probably about 500 or 600. It's packed. And then we have to call 911. So we call 911, and the paramedics get there with their loud, rearing sirens, and then the police, and then, of course, the fire department with their huge sirens. All the adults are like, "What's going on?" And the paramedics have to come in the front door. Basically, everyone in the adult service sees what's happening. They go up the stairs where all the students are, right? We have young kids all the way up to high schoolers up there. So the parents are like, "What's going on? Is that my kid?" And then they come in the room and they, of course, have to carry her out on a stretcher. I mean, she's got the neck brace on the stretcher, going out the room. All the students in the room are like, "This is insane. I really hope she's okay. I hope she's not paralyzed for this crazy youth group game." And then, of course, everyone is giving me the evil look like, "This is all your fault." Maybe they weren't doing that, but it certainly felt like they were. And then she was carried down the stairs, or probably not the stairs, we had an elevator, carried down the elevator, and she came out, and of course the adults see a student on the stretcher with the neck brace and everything, and she is carried away to the hospital. Of course, I talked to my senior pastor after the service, and he already was aware of the situation that was going on. So he was in the loop about specifically what happened. We actually had it on video too. So like later the staff and went and looked at the video to see exactly what happened. And then as soon as the service was over, I'm like, man, I really gotta like go to the hospital and see if she's okay, because like I was just, so many emotions and thoughts were going through my mind. First of all, this is all my fault. Second of all, is she okay? I hope she's okay. Like, did she break something? Third of all, is she like going to be angry at me? Are the parents going to be angry at me? Are they going to sue us? Like, am I going to lose my job? Like, all of these things are just swirling around in my head. So I rush to the hospital with my wife, and we show up, and then we have to wait because we're like, is she okay? Like, what's going on? And we don't get a full report until she comes out of the room that she was in, and she was walking, but she had a limp. And she's like, okay, yeah, Mr. Nick, like I'm okay. Everything's cool. My hip is damaged and hurt, but I don't think anything's broken. They did x-rays, so we're all good. And then as soon as that happened, just like an immediate sense of relief came over me, and I was like, I'm so glad she's okay. At that moment, all those other things weren't important. The only thing that was important was that she was okay, and I just had a big, huge sigh of relief as a result of that. And then that was on Sunday, so then we had our Monday morning staff meetings the next day, and the lead pastor said, hey, do you want to see the video? Because we had videos, like we had cameras in the room. And we saw basically what happened. We were able to like have video footage of it I guess that's good to have. And then the lead pastor did talk to the parents and even offered to the parents to pay any of the medical bills, which we ended up paying. And fortunately, I had been on staff there for about 10 years. So I had been around on staff for a long time. Everybody knew me, and the lead pastor went pretty good on me. He didn't reprimand me too bad, but he's like, hey, we got to be safe. And I learned a big lesson that day, never to do that again. And it is definitely one of those things, like looking back, because this happened probably about 20 years ago. It's one of those things where I would think back on it every so often. Even to this day, like when I'm leading a game, I'm like super vigilant to make sure that everything is going to be as safe as humanly possible. And the good thing is, if you are a youth leader out there and you've ever had a game fail go bad, but not this bad, then hey, you're doing better than I have, because you've never had one of your students go to the ER or the hospital as a result of your game. And that's a good thing, right? Because, hey, sometimes games go bad and things mess up, and you just got to kind of roll with it and do the best that you can and learn from the experience. Well, you heard my story, so let's go into the next story, which is a youth ministry leader just like you who is going to share her crazy game fail, and you're gonna really think this is insane. Today we are joined by an anonymous guest. Her name is known as Mrs. Claus from the North Pole. So welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Yes, excited to have you on today's podcast where we're talking about game fails. So tell us your story. Let's jump in.
Okay. Well, it was Christmas time, believe it or not, and I was going to have a junior high game night with a theme of all Christmas games. And I had this book called Wild and Crazy Junior High Game Nights. Have you heard of that?
Actually, no, but it sounds really great. Who publishes it?
Oh, it's probably going to be either Youth Specialties or Group. Yeah, this was in the early 2000s, so it's been a long time. And
that's when some of the best game books were published, and those two publishers were like the king and queens back then.
They were, and I would always go for the wildest and craziest and funniest things. And so I had been uncharacteristically planning ahead and getting all of the crazy items that I needed for that game night. And one of the games needed pantyhose and balloons. So I had purchased those, and you would put pantyhose on one person's head on the team, cut off the toes, and then stuff them with balloons so it looked like reindeer antlers. So that was one game. And then I couldn't find everything I needed for the other ones, like the red one-piece long johns for Santa Claus with the flap in the back, That was for some Santa relay, but that was too expensive. I couldn't find that. So then I started coming up with, how can I just make regular games that I like to do Christmassy, like Pictionary with Christmas words and that. And then I thought of my favorite game was a tag game where everyone wore a flag, like flag football. We had those belts, and you just ran around and tried to get the tails off of everybody. I think we called it tail tag. So I thought, well, how can I make that Christmassy? I know, instead of a flag, it'll be a candy cane. So I had the kids, I gave them all a candy cane. I said, now hook this in your back belt loop, which they did. And then I told them how we were going to play. And one of the middle school boys, I remember him like getting big eyes going, really? And I thought, well, that's a weird reaction. I'm like, yeah, all right, go. So then we go, and then it hits me. The girls are screaming. They're running to the walls, putting their backs against the walls, because a candy cane is only, so long, not like a flag for flag football, and the kids are grabbing at each other's butts. Yeah.
So it turned into a butt grab.
It was like a big.
Oh my goodness.
Yep. Yeah, it's like I had just sanctioned a butt grabbing frenzy.
Now, were they the small candy canes or the longer ones?
Well, they weren't like the smallest ones. They were the normal, I don't know, maybe like five or 6 inches.
But they're not very long.
They didn't hang down like a flag for flag football.
So what did you do as soon as that happened?
I just went, oh no. I'm like, okay, stop. You guys can just eat those.
Yeah. So were there any of the girls that were like, it seems like the girls were on the defense and the boys were on the offense. Is that how it played out?
Yeah, in this situation it did.
Oh my goodness. And was there any fallout or anything like that from like students who were upset or parents or anything like that?
No, like this was in the early 2000s. I feel like back then you didn't get as much parents watching over your shoulder, I guess.
This is true. As a youth leader, especially junior high, you can get away with a lot more stuff in the early 2000s than you can today, for sure. And, because I was, at that time, mid-2000s, like 2005, 2006, I oversaw our junior high ministry for about a year and a half. And we did some crazy stuff that you just would never be able to get done today. Yeah. Not necessarily game fails, but like the amount of stuff that we did.
Oh, yeah.
Craziness.
Yeah, they just trusted you back then.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Well, thanks so much for coming and telling your story. I'm glad. I hope that it's really encouraging for youth leaders to hear just like crazy game fails like that, because the truth is, in youth ministry, it's going to happen every so often where a game goes wrong.
Yes.
And you can just beat yourself up about it.
Yeah.
You can leave youth group ruminating on all that could have happened or just focusing on the negative thing that did happen. And hopefully when youth leaders hear this, they just feel a little bit of relief because, hey, they're not the only ones that went through a crazy game fail. So thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Just a reminder that this episode is brought to you by Ministry to Youth. We save youth ministry leaders time and money so you can more effectively point students to Jesus. The thing that separates our curriculum and resources from everyone else is the fact that we have bundles all the time. Different kinds, different seasonal bundles, you name it. And we also have 1-year curriculums. So a new thing that we have is children's ministry curriculum for 1st through 5th grade. So we have that as well. Check us out online at ministry ministry2youth.com. If you like today's episode, be sure to subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're listening on and rate us. If you also would like to be featured in an upcoming episode and you're the one telling us your stories, then you can go to ministry2youth.com/stories and you can see all of the upcoming episodes that we need people like you sharing their stories. Thanks again for listening or watching today's episode.